Welcome back to the channel. Racer X here, and today I thought I would respond to the litany of inquiries I've had about this recent presidential debate, the results. Obviously, Donald Trump was just elected the next president of the U.S. I know a lot of you guys were hoping for that, some people not. But today I will give you my take on what that really means for us as car people, as a car community, what that could mean for some of the car manufacturers. There are a lot of implications making this change in terms of how it's going to affect us as car people. So today I will tell you my thoughts on that. I do want to reiterate that I am not a political channel. I don't try to take sides on things. I'm not going to sit here and get into a debate with people. I'm not going to tell you who I voted for. It's just, that's not my thing. I'm not going down that rabbit hole with anybody. You guys are free to think however you like, but like I said, I think there will be some implications to us as a car community. So today I will weigh in on that. If you guys are brand new to my channel, please don't forget, hit that subscribe button. Only 18% of you guys watching at home are actually subscribed to my channel, and it costs nothing. And with that said, off we go. Guys, check it out. Today I am back at the Dream Giveaway Garage, and I wanted to show you one of my favorite giveaways that they're doing right now. You can see all of these amazing cars behind me that they're doing giveaways for, but this one right here, this plum crazy 2023 Challenger Super Stock, probably my favorite Hellcat trim of all of them, is being given away, and it's got a partner in crime right back there, a 1970 Challenger RT, formerly owned by the president of Chrysler, in mint condition. Both of these two cars being given away in one drawing. If you love Challengers, you won't want to miss an opportunity to win both of these amazing cars, old school and new school. I just can't stop looking at this beautiful 1970 440 six-pack Challenger. I mean, just absolutely flawless. And then, of course, my favorite Hellcat, as I mentioned, is a Super Stock. I love to race. Just look at this thing. All business. Both of these cars match in plum crazy, being given away together. They do such a good job with this. You can see all of this carbon fiber trim that they added to this car. Lots of little special details on the underside as well. If you love horsepower and you love Mopars, you do not want to miss out on an opportunity to own these two beautiful cars. If you use my code RACERX, they will give you 3 times the entries for one price. I will go ahead and pin a link in the comment section down below, and I can't wait to see who wins. Now, before I lean into my thoughts on what could happen under this new Trump administration, I do want to talk a little bit about the current Biden administration. And I want to be very factual because I wrote all sorts of stuff down here about their goals really for the past 4 years and their goals moving into the future, because we all know that there's been this hard push towards zero emission vehicles, more strict CAFE regulations. We know that Stellantis was paying through the nose so the Dodge could continue to produce Hemis up until 2023. I mean, there are a lot of moving parts to this, but essentially the US market, they're just not all that enthusiastic about EVs. We've seen Ford kind of change their plans. Obviously, they kind of backed off of what they were going to do from an EV investment perspective, at least from what they initially said. Same thing with Chevrolet. Stellantis is still going full bore. We will talk about that. But under the Biden rule, 67% of new light duty and 46% of medium duty vehicles sold by 2032 need to be zero emissions. That is a really aggressive standard. Like I said, we've already got way more strict CAFE guidelines. That's why we don't see some of the other cars out there that we used to see, and why so many companies have had to spend a butt ton of money to redesign engines. I mean, there's been all sorts of implications to all these changes. They're saying by 2035, they want to ban the sale of all gas-powered vehicles in this country. That's 10 years from now. They want no gas-powered vehicles sold in this country. That is mind-blowing to me. Like I said, we've got so much dependency on gasoline-powered vehicles, not just passenger vehicles, but commercial vehicles as well. And they also have the Advanced Clean Cars 2 regulations, saying 10 years from now, all California vehicles must be zero emissions. Now, there's actually a really good article on CNBC that just came out yesterday talking about a lot of this. This is kind of where I got some of this information. And Donald Trump, he has been very outspoken about his disdain for this mandatory push to electric vehicles. And a lot of you guys feel the same way. Trump feels like it's been forced upon the U.S. consumers, and he simply does not like that. And he has vowed to roll back the EV mandate. Now, he can't necessarily tell manufacturers what to make, right? These are private companies. They're free to make what they want, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to continue to make vehicles that nobody is buying. And what Trump can go after is all of the extra money, the extra incentives that the government was giving out to people that buy EVs. And when you've already got a segment that hardly anybody is buying, that's only going to further hurt the segment, which would then cause companies like Ford, companies like Chevy, and probably not Stellantis, we'll talk about it, but they have to sort of change what they're offering people. And I think that would make a lot of people really happy. So while Trump doesn't have all the power in this, he does have the power to kind of go after how some of that government money is spent and where the rewards come to customers. And that could make a difference in sales.
Also, what has President-elect Trump said about electric vehicles?
Yeah, so he's, during his campaigning, Nick and Courtney, he's largely condemned electric vehicles, calling it the green new scam, and specifically saying they are being forced on consumers. He's promised during his campaigning to scale back on standard emission standards. Rather, we're talking about a change on EV incentives and increasing tariffs on electric vehicles. So he's vowed to roll back or eliminate the vehicle emission standards under the Environmental Protection Agency. He's also expected to get rid of incentives that would promote the production and adoption of electric vehicles, like tax breaks on EVs. And he'll also decide how to spend billions of dollars in grants that were initially located for EV charging stations that will no longer likely go to those charging stations across America.
Now, they talked about it in this CNBC article, and it's amazing how fast things can change and how public perception can affect stock price. But immediately following this election, the stock price for Ford and Chevrolet went up, while companies like Rivian and Lucid, the stock price went down. And we already know that those companies are heavily reliant on these incentives from the government. If those go away, you can imagine how bad it will hurt those companies. And who knows, it may even cause them to go out of business. So if you are not an EV fan, perhaps that's good news for you. And if you are a huge fan of EVs, not necessarily a great thing. Now, another thing that could potentially happen under the new Trump administration is they could decide to roll back these really strict CAFE regulations, theoretically opening up the playbook for a lot of these American companies to give us more performance-oriented vehicles, big V8's, stuff like that. Who knows? They could make a comeback. Now, before we start popping off fireworks in the middle of the street and celebrating, oh, the Hellcat's definitely coming back and all that kind of stuff, I do want to give you just a little bit of perspective. I want to kind of just bring it down a notch, because just because the rules change, again, doesn't necessarily mean that you would get different offerings and get everything that you want. And what I mean by that is, think about the model year runs for our current performance cars. I mean, Corvette's a perfect example. They typically run from anywhere between 5 and 8 model years. So you're talking about a 4-year administration. Change just doesn't happen all that fast. That doesn't mean these companies couldn't have been kind of just waiting in the wings to see what happened with the election and maybe have some plans already in place. But it's not like, back in 2015, one day Tim Kuniskis just got up and was like, let's just make a Hellcat and let's put it out tomorrow. I mean, that thing was years in the making. So you just have to think about, the fact that change is relatively slow. I mean, the S550 Mustang, they made it for 8 years. It was 8 model runs. And we saw basically the same engine in that car for most of it. So it's not like all this change can happen really, really quickly. So could we see another Hellcat type offering at some point? Maybe. But I don't think it's going to happen very fast. So I just want to kind of put that out there. Even if they decide, hey, look, we're going to roll back these CAFE regulations. The EV mandate's no longer a thing. It takes these companies time to react to something like that. And you've also got other situations where companies have invested billions of dollars. I mean, Stellantis, and this is one of the big things I wanted to talk about. I mean, they are a worldwide company. They know they're already doing fairly well with EVs over in Europe, right? They want to compete against the Chinese market. So in order to cater to just the U.S. market, which is a cash cow for them, they kind of cross-pollinate their offerings. I mean, the Hornet is a perfect example, right? It's an Alfa Romeo Tonale just rebadged. So they try and reuse a lot of their engines. I mean, the Hurricane engine, all that kind of stuff. A lot of that stuff was kind of thought up in Europe and just bled over to the U.S. offering. So are they going to go back to the drawing board, redo the V8, all that kind of stuff for just their American brands? I highly doubt that. As a matter of fact, if you really look at kind of the trend over there with Stellantis, we know Carlos Tavares, his contract doesn't expire for like another, year and a half, 2026 at some point. I know they're looking for somebody new. It does take time. But I just want to set the stage. This kind of thing, it takes a while in order to kind of get things moving. And if you've already spent billions on factories and EV technology and all that kind of stuff, to just reverse it and not know what's going to happen in another 4 years, I don't necessarily know if that makes a lot of business sense. So they kind of just jumped in, head first into this EV thing. The U.S. market doesn't seem to be having it. We know the sales for Stellantis are really, really soft. Like I said, we already saw Ford kind of back off of their EV push. The same thing with Chevrolet. They're backing down a little bit because the sales just aren't there. They just don't look good. However, change is slow. Now I want to give you my open, honest thoughts about what I feel like could happen under this new Trump administration over the course of the next 4 years. And I want to be completely realistic with this. Do I feel like Trump and his team are going to try and roll back the EV mandate?
Hell yes.
Absolutely. I think they will. He's been very outspoken about it, and I think he will have some success and he will get that changed. I don't know how long it will take, but I feel like he could probably do that relatively quickly. In terms of rolling back the CAFE standards that are now in place, I feel like he and his team will definitely try to do that, but it's going to take time if he's successful at all. There will be a ton of pushback on that. That's just my honest feelings about it. I don't think it's going to happen quickly or easily. And even if Donald Trump says, I want this, I think there's going to be enough pushback on that to make it very, very difficult. And we won't see that for a couple of years. If it does happen, it will absolutely open up the playbook in terms of performance offerings from companies like Chevrolet and Ford. Now, when it comes to Stellantis, a lot of people emailed me or messaged me and they were like, Racer X, guess what? The Hellcat's coming back. Guys, I don't see that happening. I'm just being honest with you. Stellantis still owns Mopar. Okay, Stellantis is a European company. They are really focused on the European consumer. Yes, Mopar is their cash cow over here in the US, but they've already spent billions on factories and EV technology, battery technology, all that kind of stuff. And they are going full bore down this EV train, and I don't see that changing. They've already said at length that they have no interest in selling off any of their brands, Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler, or Ram. We've talked about that, where Frank Rhodes wanted to buy them. It's just not going to happen, and they fully intend on turning these companies into EV manufacturers. That's the reality of the situation. I don't believe they're going to change course just for the U.S. market because obviously, you've got cars like the Hornet, you've got cars like the Tenali that they have all this cross-pollination, and being a global company, they're not going to change it, guys. I don't foresee a new V8. I don't foresee a new Hellcat, and I know that is a bummer to everybody because they thought as soon as Trump got elected, you would start seeing Hellcats again. It doesn't work that way, guys. And even if you do see a new V8 by some off chance, Matt McAleer could go to Carlos Tavares tomorrow and say, guess what? The rules are going to change. Let's change up our offerings. I think Carlos Tavares is just going to laugh at him and say, no, we're going full EV. That's the way things are going to be. It's all about EVs. And I just don't see it changing no matter how bad the executives at Dodge, which are great people, no matter how bad they want to change it. That's my personal thought on it. I think the Hellcat is dead. I don't see it coming back. It's a shame. Cars like this are going to be dinosaurs to them. And it's kind of a sad day for them. Now, like I said, when it comes to Ford, I think we could see a lot of really cool stuff from Ford. New Shelbys, different offerings from them. I feel like Chevrolet actually could benefit the most. Could we see a revival of the Camaro? Could we see, Pontiac make a comeback? Could we see more performance offerings from Chevrolet once these rules do change, assuming they do? I absolutely think so. I think GM could benefit a whole bunch from all this change. It just takes time. So guys, don't expect all this to happen in the next 3 months or 4 months or a year. It does take time to get all this stuff done. But it's not necessarily a bad thing if you are a performance enthusiast and you love your big V8s. This isn't a bad thing, right? This is a step in the right direction. And who knows what's going to happen, say, 4 years from now, right? When we have another election, if it goes, back over to, say, the Democratic side, the rules could change again. And these companies know that. So when you're spending billions and billions and you're looking into the future for 10 years, or 15 years. When you've constantly got administrations changing back and forth, at some point you kind of have to level out and just stick with a plan. And so you just, a lot of things to think about here right now, guys. I just wanted to give you a little bit of factual information and give you my thoughts on how things could change. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Weigh in the comments section. Let me know, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, Racer X.